Captain John Hayes sat in the command chair of the small human ship, the Horizon. The stars outside stretched endlessly, shining cold and distant. He looked over the crew quietly working at their stations. Lieutenant Sarah Miller was checking the navigational systems, and Alex Turner, the engineer, was busy tuning the engines. They were small in number and small in ship compared to the vast Zephyr fleets, but John had a quiet confidence. Humans had always found ways to survive and even thrive against greater odds. The Zephyr were known across the galaxy as a race no one could defeat. They were tall, strong, and extremely intelligent. Their ships were fast, heavily armed, and controlled with a precision that seemed almost perfect. Many planets had tried to resist them and failed. Entire populations had vanished under Zephyr rule. Legends of their victories traveled across light years, warning other races to surrender before facing them. Yet here the humans were, approaching Zephyr space without fear. "Captain," Sarah said, pointing at the display. "We are entering the neutral zone. Sensors show a Zephyr patrol heading this way." John nodded, keeping his face calm. "We expected that. Keep scanners ready and watch for anything unusual." Alex looked up from his console, worry clear in his eyes. "John, their ships are massive. If they detect us, we won't stand a chance." John smiled faintly. "Alex, that's why we won't let them detect us. Keep the engine steady and remember, humans are unpredictable. They won't know what to expect from us." The ship moved quietly through space, weaving between asteroids and debris that floated in the void. The Zephyr patrol was fast, but the humans had the advantage of smaller size and flexible movement. The patrol ship's sensors swept through the area, missing the horizon by mere meters. John felt a thrill of anticipation. The Zephyr believed themselves invincible, but humans had a way of surprising even the strongest opponents. Hours passed in tense silence. The Horizon finally reached the neutral planet. John and his crew scanned the surface. Cities sprawled across continents, yet all signs showed strict control and order. The Zephyr had claimed this world years ago, turning it into a base for their operations. The humans knew the people here had little chance of resisting, but that would change. "We need to land quietly," John said. "If we are detected, the Zephyr will attack immediately." "We cannot risk a fight outside our ship," Sarah nodded. "There's an old spaceport in the northern continent." "I think we can reach it without being seen." Alex checked the engines again. "All systems ready. We just need to be careful. One mistake and we are done." The Horizon slipped into the atmosphere of the planet, gliding silently. The crew held their breath as they passed above Zephyr patrols on the ground. Finally, the ship landed on the outskirts of the abandoned spaceport. Dust swirled around them and the sound of wind filled the air. It felt strange to be on solid ground after months of travel through space. John led the crew off the ship. Their small human bodies seemed almost fragile against the alien landscape, but they moved with purpose and confidence. Sarah and Alex followed closely, carrying equipment for communication and scanning. They needed information about the Zephyr operations and any weaknesses they could exploit. "We need to find local survivors," John said. "They will know how the Zephyr control this planet and where we can move safely." Hours of walking brought them to a small village hidden in the mountains. People peered from behind closed doors and windows, fear clear in their eyes. John raised his hands to show they meant no harm. "We are humans," he said. "We want to help you." An older man stepped forward. "Humans, you have come willingly. The Zephyr would never let anyone enter our lands without destroying them." Sarah smiled gently. "We are here to help. We are small in number, but we believe we can make a difference." The villagers were cautious, but curiosity overcame fear. They led the humans to a hidden shelter, where they shared stories of Zephyr control. Their words painted a picture of oppression, of fear and loss, and of the invincible army that no one dared fight. John listened carefully, noting every detail. "The Zephyr patrol the cities day and night," the elder said. "They watch everyone. No one can move freely. Anyone who resists disappears." John nodded. "We understand. We will not confront them directly yet. We need to gather information and find the right moment to act." Over the next days, the humans explored the planet quietly. They mapped patrol routes, observed communication networks, and identified supply lines. Each night, they returned to the village to share their findings. The villagers began to trust them, inspired by their courage. Humans were small, but their presence alone gave hope. One evening, while reviewing the scans, Alex pointed at a weak point in the Zephyr's defenses. "Here," he said, "their communication hub is vulnerable. If we disable it, we can cause confusion without a fight. Sarah leaned over the display. We need a plan. The Zephyr will not expect humans to attack strategically. They believe they are untouchable. John's eyes gleamed with determination. Then we will use that. We will show them humans are not so easily defeated. We need to move carefully, but we have to act. The humans spent the next few days preparing. They crafted tools from simple materials, learning from the villagers and modifying their ship's technology for local operations. Every step required precision and care, but their determination never wavered. Each member of the crew knew the risk, yet each one believed in the mission. Finally, the night of the first action arrived. The horizon moved into position while the humans approached the communication hub. They hid in shadows, observing Zephyr guards moving with predictable routines. John signaled the team, and with synchronized effort, they disabled the hub. Lights flickered and communication signals went dead. The Zephyr were taken by surprise. "It worked," Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with excitement. "They have no idea what hit them." Alex grinned, wiping sweat from his brow. "Who would have thought humans could do this?" John looked at them with quiet pride. "This is only the beginning. Humans are small, but we have courage, intelligence, and the ability to adapt. The Zephyr may be invincible in power, but we are unpredictable. That is our strength." Back in the village, the humans shared the success with the locals. The villagers' faces lit with hope. For the first time in years, they believed resistance was possible. John knew the road ahead would be difficult. The Zephyr would retaliate, and the humans would face dangers unlike any before. Yet for the first time, they had shown that even the mightiest enemy could be challenged. As the stars shimmered above the planet, the humans prepared for the next step. Each knew that their small actions could spark change. The Zephyr, who had considered themselves invincible, were about to learn that humans were not so easily defeated. John looked at his crew and smiled. This was the start of something greater than themselves. The galaxy would soon see that human spirit and courage could face even the strongest opponents and survive. The success at the communication hub had brought hope to the villagers, but John Hayes knew this was only the beginning. The Zephyr were strong and clever, and they would respond quickly. He gathered his crew in the hidden shelter to plan their next move. "We need to strike strategically," John said. "If we attack head-on, we will be destroyed. But if we use our strengths, we can make a difference." Sarah Miller pointed at the maps they had drawn. "There are supply routes and patrol patterns. If we disrupt them, we can slow the Zephyr without direct confrontation." Alex Turner nodded. "We can also use the terrain. Humans are small and flexible. We can move where their large forces cannot." The humans spent days preparing for their next missions. They created small traps and diversions. They trained the villagers in simple techniques, teaching them how to hide, observe, and pass information. The villagers began to feel part of a larger fight, and their courage grew. On the first night of the operations, John led a team to a Zephyr supply route. They moved silently, hiding behind rocks and in shadows. The patrols were predictable, moving in patterns that humans quickly learned. With careful timing, they sabotaged the supply lines, cutting off food and equipment. When the Zephyr discovered the disruption, they were furious. They could not understand how humans, small and seemingly weak, had caused such damage. Meanwhile, Sarah and Alex worked on another mission. They had found a Zephyr outpost controlling part of the city. Using stealth, they infiltrated the base, disabling security systems and leaving signs of human presence. The Zephyr, who believed no one could oppose them, began to worry. Something about humans did not fit into their calculations. The villagers watched from hiding places, amazed at the courage of these strangers. They saw how humans could act with intelligence and bravery, facing dangers that would terrify others. The humans treated the villagers with respect, teaching them to survive and resist. Trust grew, and more villagers joined the efforts. One day, a Zephyr commander appeared in the city, demanding the population submit fully. He called humans weak and insignificant, expecting the villagers to fear them. But the villagers, emboldened by the humans' actions, did not show submission. Whispers spread about the small group of humans who could strike and vanish. Even the Zephyr began to worry. John knew they had to continue using surprise and ingenuity. "We cannot fight like they do," he said to Sarah and Alex. "We need to think differently, act differently, and never let them predict us." Sarah suggested targeting communication lines again. "If we disrupt their messages, they will be confused and slow to respond. That gives us time to act elsewhere," Alex added. We can also set traps along their patrol routes. They rely on strength and technology, but we rely on creativity. The next weeks were filled with careful planning and daring actions. Humans sabotaged patrols, disrupted supply routes, and spread confusion among Zephyr forces. Each success, small or large, was a blow to the Zephyr's confidence. Their invincible image began to crack. They could not understand why humans were so unpredictable. One night, John led a mission to rescue villagers captured by the Zephyr. Using stealth and clever distractions, they freed the prisoners without being detected. The villagers were amazed and inspired. They now believed humans could change the balance of power. The Zephyr response was strong. They increased patrols, built barriers, and used advanced sensors to detect humans. But humans adapted. They changed tactics, moved quickly, and continued to strike at unexpected places. Each encounter showed the Zephyr that humans were not easily defeated. Sarah discovered a pattern in Zephyr movements that no one else had noticed. They rely on routine, she explained. If we use that against them, we can create chaos without direct fighting. John smiled. Exactly. Humans thrive on flexibility. We use what others ignore. That is our power. The villagers began to help in small ways. They passed information, hid supplies, and guided humans through secret paths. Each person's courage added to the humans' efforts. The Zephyr had never faced such unity from smaller beings. Their strength and intelligence alone could not overcome the determination and creativity of humans working together. Alex worked tirelessly to improve tools and devices for the missions. He modified simple equipment to create distractions, alarms, and small weapons. Everything humans used was adapted to their needs, showing how even limited resources could be powerful in skilled hands. During one daring raid, the humans infiltrated a Zephyr armory. They removed weapons and left signs that humans had been there, but they never engaged in direct combat. When the Zephyr discovered the raid, they were angry and confused. Humans were always one step ahead, acting unpredictably and striking without warning. John gathered the crew. We are proving something important. Humans are not the strongest physically, but we are clever, brave, and adaptable. That is why we survive and succeed. The Zephyr believed they were invincible, but they have never faced us before. The Zephyr were growing frustrated. Their patrols were disrupted, their supply lines damaged, and their communication systems unreliable. The humans' actions showed them that even the most powerful force could be challenged by intelligence and courage. One night, as John and Sarah watched the stars, they reflected on their journey. They were far from home in a dangerous land, and yet they had begun to make a difference. The villagers trusted them, and the Zephyr feared them. Each small victory brought hope, proving that humans, underestimated and few in number, could overcome great challenges. The humans continued to plan and act, each mission built on the last, creating confusion and weakening the Zephyr hold. The villagers, inspired by human courage, began to believe in the possibility of freedom. The Zephyr, despite their power and intelligence, could not predict the next move. John looked at his crew. We are small, but we are strong in ways they do not understand. That is our advantage. Humans are never truly defeated when we think, adapt, and act together. The night was quiet, but tension remained. The Zephyr would eventually retaliate, and humans had to be ready. But for now, they had proven something important. They had shown that even against the strongest enemy, humans could survive and fight back. The galaxy had underestimated them, and they would continue to do so at their own peril. The next step was larger and riskier. John, Sarah, and Alex planned a coordinated attack on multiple Zephyr positions, aiming to create chaos and show humans were more than a minor nuisance. They worked with the villagers, training them to play small but crucial roles in the missions. Every person, every action mattered. As the first rays of light touched the planet, the humans prepared for another night of operations. The Zephyr were powerful, yes, but humans were clever, flexible, and determined. That combination had no equal. John looked at his team, proud and confident. They were small, but their spirit was larger than any fleet of Zephyr ships. They were proving step by step that humans could challenge the strongest beings in the galaxy and survive to fight another day. John Hayes and his crew had spent weeks observing the Zephyr, learning their patterns and weaknesses. Each mission had taught them something new. Humans were small and seemed fragile, but they had an advantage: the ability to adapt quickly and think differently from any other race the Zephyr had faced. One morning, John gathered Sarah Miller and Alex Turner to plan the next stage of their campaign. "We cannot just hit supply lines anymore," he said. "We need a plan that affects them everywhere at the same time. We have to show that humans are not only brave but smart." Sarah pointed at the holographic maps. "There are several key Zephyr bases spread across this continent. If we strike in multiple places at once, we can confuse them and make them think there are more of us than there really are." Alex adjusted his glasses and smiled. "We can use the villagers too. They can create diversions, light fires, or leave signs of human activity. Even small actions can make the Zephyr second-guess everything." John nodded. "Exactly. Humans have always turned disadvantages into advantages. Let's do it again, but bigger." The humans spent the day preparing. They divided into teams and trained the villagers in simple but effective techniques: how to hide, how to signal, and how to create diversions. Every person had a role. Humans were not alone. They had built a small network of allies who understood their methods. As night fell, the first team moved toward a Zephyr outpost. They avoided patrols, sticking to shadows and using natural terrain for cover. John led a second team toward a communication tower. Their movements were silent, coordinated, and precise. Every step was carefully planned, but the humans were ready to improvise if needed. At the first outpost, Sarah and her team planted small devices that created smoke and noise. The Zephyr guards were startled, thinking an attack was coming from a larger force. They scrambled, trying to organize a defense, but the humans had already moved to the next stage. John and Alex reached the communication tower. They quickly disabled the main systems, leaving the Zephyr unable to coordinate with their other bases. Signals that were once instant now lagged, causing confusion. The humans worked swiftly, leaving no trace except the disruption itself. Meanwhile, villagers had started small fires in strategic locations, further distracting Zephyr patrols. Their actions made it seem like a large force of humans was present everywhere. The Zephyr, accustomed to control and order, were now faced with unpredictability. For the first time, they felt uneasy. Back at the shelter, John and Sarah communicated via small encrypted channels, coordinating the teams. "All teams report success," John said. "The Zephyr are reacting but cannot understand why. That is our strength," Alex added. "They may be strong, but they are not flexible. We are changing the game by being unpredictable." Over the next few days, humans continued to strike at multiple targets. They sabotaged supply lines, disrupted patrols, and created confusion. Each action was small but strategic, and the cumulative effect began to weaken the Zephyr's confidence. They could not find the humans, could not predict their moves, and could not restore order quickly. The villagers grew bolder. They helped guide humans, passed messages, and even performed small acts of sabotage themselves. Their courage grew and they began to hope for freedom. Humans, by showing bravery and ingenuity, had given them the belief that change was possible. One morning, a Zephyr commander arrived at a main city. He was large, imposing, and confident. He expected the villagers to fear him, but instead he found whispers and subtle acts of defiance. Messages left by humans, minor disruptions, and hidden signs had created tension. The commander realized that humans were not simply small beings to be ignored. John met with his crew and the villagers to discuss the next phase. "We have proven that small numbers and simple technology can cause disruption," he said. "Now we must prepare for a larger action that will show the Zephyr humans cannot be controlled easily." Sarah suggested targeting key Zephyr leaders. "If we can create confusion at the top, it will spread throughout their forces. They will hesitate, and that gives us an advantage." Alex added, "We can set traps and diversions to protect ourselves while striking the leaders. They are used to power and strength, but humans rely on brains and quick thinking." Preparation for the next stage was careful and detailed. Humans and villagers worked together to set up distractions, gather intelligence, and plan precise movements. Each person knew their role and the risks involved. Courage, trust, and adaptability became their strongest weapons. The night of the operation arrived. John led one team, Sarah another, and Alex managed equipment and communication. The humans moved like shadows, striking swiftly and disappearing. Fires and alarms caused chaos among Zephyr forces. Leaders were misinformed, patrols were misdirected, and their confidence faltered. The Zephyr could not understand it. Their systems, their intelligence, and their strength seemed ineffective against humans. One after another, their outposts experienced disruption. The humans' strategy was precise, using the enemy's assumptions against them. Each small victory, multiplied across multiple locations, created a ripple effect that weakened the invincible image of the Zephyr. Villagers watched in awe. They had never seen courage like this. Humans, small in number and fragile in appearance, were capable of actions that no other species had achieved. They inspired hope, proving that intelligence, courage, and unity could overcome raw power. As dawn approached, John and his teams regrouped. They had completed the missions without a direct fight, relying on strategy and unpredictability. The Zephyr, strong and confident, were forced to reconsider their understanding of humans. The myth of invincibility began to crack. John looked at Sarah and Alex. "We are showing the galaxy that humans survive and succeed in ways no one expects. They are strong, yes, but they cannot see everything, cannot predict us. That is our power." Sarah smiled. "Every small action counts. Every decision we make can change outcomes. Humans adapt, learn, and work together. That makes us formidable," Alex nodded. "We may not be physically stronger, but our mind and determination can defeat larger forces. The Zephyr are learning that the hard way." The humans continued their work over the following weeks. They struck strategically, disrupted communications, and used every advantage they could find. Villagers became brave participants, each contributing in small but meaningful ways. Zephyr forces were increasingly on edge, unsure of how to respond to a foe that did not fight like anyone else. John reflected on their journey. Humans had faced countless challenges throughout history, often outnumbered and outpowered, but they had survived. They relied on ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. That same spirit now faced one of the most feared races in the galaxy, and so far they had proven that strength alone did not make a force invincible. As night fell over the planet once more, humans prepared for the next series of missions. They would continue to disrupt, confuse, and challenge the Zephyr at every opportunity. Each success built confidence and momentum. The invincible Zephyr were learning that humans were unpredictable, intelligent, and capable of remarkable feats. John watched the stars from the shelter. "We are small," he said softly, "but humans have a strength no one can measure, the spirit to adapt and never give up. That is why we survive. That is why we will continue to fight. And that is why, even against the strongest, humans are never truly defeated." The humans had disrupted Zephyr operations for weeks. Each action was small but strategic, slowly eroding the alien force's confidence. John Hayes knew that the next step would need courage, cleverness, and careful coordination. This would be the turning point. He gathered Sarah Miller and Alex Turner to discuss the plan. "We cannot simply hit them from one direction," John said. "We need a multi-pronged approach that targets their leadership, supply lines, and communications simultaneously. We need to make them doubt everything they know." Sarah examined the maps. "There are 4 key Zephyr strongholds. If we strike all of them in one coordinated effort, they will be thrown into confusion. Their strength comes from order and precision, but humans are unpredictable. That is our advantage," Alex nodded. "We can use the villagers to create distractions, block roads, and mislead patrols. Humans move fast and quietly. We can appear in multiple places even if we are few." John smiled. "Exactly. Humans survive because we adapt. They will never expect our next move." The humans spent the next several days preparing. They trained the villagers, refined equipment, and rehearsed the plan in detail. Each person had a role, each action had a purpose. Courage and intelligence became their weapons. As night fell, the operation began. John led the first team toward the largest Zephyr stronghold. The path was treacherous, but humans moved silently, avoiding patrols and traps. Their presence was barely noticed, yet their actions would have a powerful effect. Sarah led another team toward a communications hub. The Zephyr relied heavily on constant updates from their bases. By disabling the hub, the humans would disrupt coordination across the region. They moved quickly, using stealth and cunning, and within hours the hub was offline. The Zephyr forces were confused. Alex and his team targeted a supply depot. Using simple devices, they destroyed storage and transport mechanisms, causing shortages for the Zephyr soldiers. The aliens were baffled. Their calculations had predicted no opposition. Yet humans had struck where least expected. Villagers created small fires, blocked roads, and left misleading signs, making the Zephyr believe they faced a much larger force. Panic spread among the aliens. Their leadership struggled to respond, unable to restore order or understand the human tactics. In the first stronghold, John and his team carefully planted devices to create chaos. Guards were disoriented, systems failed, and confusion reigned. No direct combat was needed. The humans had used intelligence and timing to achieve victory. Meanwhile, Sarah's team continued disabling communication points, ensuring the Zephyr could not coordinate. Alex moved from site to site, sabotaging critical supply lines. Each small action amplified the effects of the others. The Zephyr commander at the central base could not comprehend the human strategy. Orders were ignored, systems failed, and morale dropped. For the first time, the aliens felt vulnerable. Their reputation of invincibility was crumbling. John communicated with his teams via small encrypted channels. "All teams report success," he said. "The Zephyr are reacting, but they cannot regain control. That is the power of humans. We act, adapt, and think differently." The villagers, inspired by human courage, played a crucial role. They guided teams, carried messages, and helped create diversions. Humans had shown them that even small beings could challenge the strongest. Hope grew among the population, and the idea of freedom no longer seemed impossible. Over the following days, humans continued the coordinated operations. Each mission struck fear into the Zephyr, showing that humans were not to be underestimated. Their ingenuity, courage, and adaptability made them formidable even without large numbers or heavy weaponry. John gathered his crew one night to reflect. "We have shown that humans survive and succeed because we think, adapt, and act together. The Zephyr believed themselves invincible, but they have never faced us before." Sarah added, "Every small action matters. Every decision counts. Humans are clever, quick, and united. That is why we continue to succeed against stronger forces." Alex smiled. "We may not have the size or strength of the Zephyr, but we have intelligence, courage, and determination. That is why they cannot defeat us." The Zephyr were forced to adjust. Their forces were stretched thin, their confidence shaken, and their strategy uncertain. Humans had demonstrated that even the strongest enemies could be challenged with careful planning and courage. The next operation was even bolder. John, Sarah, and Alex planned to target a central command center that coordinated the entire Zephyr presence on the planet. Success would create maximum disruption and further demonstrate human capability. Preparation took days. Villagers were trained to provide assistance, watch for patrols, and create distractions. Humans refined their tools, rehearsed plans, and coordinated movements carefully. Every detail mattered. Mistakes could be fatal. As the night of the operation arrived, humans moved in multiple directions. John's team approached the command center using shadows and terrain to remain unseen. Sarah's team disabled security systems while Alex ensured equipment and tools were functioning perfectly. Villagers played their parts, guiding humans and creating diversions. The Zephyr were overwhelmed. Their systems failed, patrols were misled, and leaders were uncertain. Humans struck at key points, causing confusion without engaging in direct combat. The aliens, who believed themselves invincible, now faced a foe that could not be predicted. By dawn, the operation was complete. Communication lines were down, supply depots destroyed, and the command center disrupted. Zephyr forces were in disarray. Humans had achieved a major victory, not by brute force, but by intelligence, planning, and courage. John gathered his team. "We have shown that humans survive, adapt, and succeed even against the strongest. Our actions today have shaken the invincible Zephyr. They will never underestimate humans again." Sarah nodded. "We have proven that cleverness, bravery, and unity can overcome strength. Humans are small, but our spirit is powerful." Alex added, "Every mission, every step we take builds momentum. Humans are unpredictable, intelligent, and determined. That is why we succeed where others fail." The villagers celebrated with the humans. They had seen courage in action, and their belief in freedom and hope had grown. Humans had inspired them, showing that even the mightiest foes could be challenged and overcome. John reflected on the weeks of operations. Humans had faced challenges that would have defeated many other species. But through adaptability, intelligence, and courage, they had turned disadvantages into strengths. The Zephyr, who once believed themselves untouchable, had learned that humans were different, clever, and determined. As the sun rose, John looked at his crew. "We are small, but humans have a power that no one can measure. The ability to think, adapt, and never give up. That is why we survive. That is why we succeed, and that is why we will continue to challenge even the strongest in the galaxy. The humans had reached a point where their small victories had begun to shake the Zephyr completely. John Hayes knew the final step would need precision, courage, and the full support of the villagers. This was the moment to prove that humans were not to be underestimated. John gathered Sarah Miller and Alex Turner in the shelter. "We have weakened them, disrupted their systems, and inspired the villagers," he said. "Now we must finish this with a coordinated strike at the heart of their forces." Sarah studied the maps. "Their central command and main supply hub are heavily guarded. We cannot attack head-on, but if we use multiple approaches and the element of surprise, we can succeed." Alex nodded. "We can set traps and diversions using the terrain and the villagers' help. If we move quickly and quietly, the Zephyr will not know what hit them." The humans spent several days preparing. Every member of the crew knew their role, and every villager was trained to assist without putting themselves in danger unnecessarily. Courage, intelligence, and careful planning became the weapons of this small group. As night fell, John led the first team toward the central command center. They moved through forests and hills, staying in shadows and avoiding patrols. Their movements were careful but fast. Each step brought them closer to the Zephyr heart. Sarah and her team approached the main supply hub. With quiet efficiency, they disabled security systems and created diversions. Fires were set at distant points, and false signals were sent to confuse the Zephyr soldiers. The aliens, accustomed to order, were thrown into chaos. Alex coordinated the technology and communication. Small devices were placed to jam sensors and interfere with Zephyr tracking systems. Every small action amplified the impact of the others, creating confusion across multiple locations. The villagers guided the humans, helped set up diversions, and watched for patrols. Their courage had grown immensely, inspired by the humans who had taught them that even the mightiest enemies could be challenged. Each villager's contribution made the mission more successful and effective. The humans reached the command center and planted small but effective devices to create further chaos. The Zephyr forces inside were confused and disoriented. Orders were ignored and systems failed. The humans did not need to fight directly. Intelligence, timing, and adaptability had done the work. In the supply hub, Sarah's team completed their mission. Supplies were destroyed or disrupted, making it impossible for Zephyr soldiers to operate efficiently. Confusion spread through the ranks. The aliens were baffled. Humans, small and seemingly fragile, had outsmarted them completely. John communicated with the teams. "All points report success," he said. "The Zephyr are reacting but cannot regain control. Our strategy is working. Humans think, adapt, and act differently than any other species they have faced. That is why we succeed." The villagers celebrated quietly, knowing that their help had made a real difference. They had learned courage, strategy, and intelligence from the humans. Their belief in freedom grew, and they felt part of something greater than themselves. Over the next several days, humans and villagers continued coordinated operations. Supply lines remained disrupted, communication systems failed, and patrols were misled at every turn. The Zephyr, once confident and invincible, were now unsure, stretched thin and demoralized. The humans had achieved what no other race had before. John reflected on the journey. Humans had faced challenges and threats throughout history, often outnumbered and outpowered. Yet through intelligence, courage, and adaptability, they had survived and succeeded. Now they had shown that even against a seemingly invincible enemy, humans could prevail. Sarah observed the Zephyr forces struggling to coordinate. "They are strong, yes," she said. "But humans think, adapt, and act together. That is why we survive. That is why we succeed," Alex added. "We may be small, but our spirit, intelligence, and determination give us power no weapon alone can provide." The final operation culminated in a coordinated strike on remaining Zephyr positions. Humans used strategy and cunning to disable defenses and create diversions, making the aliens feel surrounded by a force larger than reality. Panic and confusion spread, and the Zephyr were forced to surrender at key locations. John and his crew moved carefully to ensure the surrender was complete. The Zephyr, astonished and defeated, could not believe they had been outsmarted by humans. Their invincible image had been shattered. Humans, small in number and appearance, had proven that courage, intelligence, and adaptability could overcome any strength. Villagers emerged from hiding to witness the result. They cheered for the humans who had inspired them, taught them courage, and led them to freedom. Humans had shown that even the most oppressive enemy could be challenged and overcome with careful planning, strategy, and unity. John addressed his crew. We have proven something important. Humans are never truly defeated when we use our minds, courage, and teamwork. The Zephyr believed they were invincible, but they have never faced humans before. Sarah smiled. Every small action mattered. Every decision counted. Humans are clever, brave, and united. That is why we succeeded where others would fail. Alex added, our strength is not in numbers or weapons alone. It is in intelligence, determination, and adaptability. That is why humans endure, survive, and prevail. The planet was quiet once more. Humans had disrupted the Zephyr, inspired the villagers, and proved that invincibility was not absolute. Courage, intelligence, and the will to survive had triumphed over strength and control. John looked at the stars, reflecting on the journey. Humans had faced overwhelming odds, yet they had prevailed through creativity, adaptability, and courage. The galaxy had underestimated them, but now it would know humans were a force to be reckoned with. Sarah placed a hand on John's shoulder. We have done something remarkable. They will remember us. They will remember that humans are never truly defeated. Alex nodded. We have shown that even the smallest can challenge the strongest, and that determination, intelligence, and courage can change the course of events. John smiled. Humans have proven that spirit, intelligence, and unity are stronger than brute force. That is why we survive. That is why we succeed. That is why, even against the strongest, humans are unstoppable in spirit and courage.